I'm now joined by retired US Ambassador to Istanbul, Matthew Bryza. Matthew, a pleasure to have you on the show. First of all, why does Israel just want a 60-day ceasefire and not a permanent one?
Yeah, thank you, Leigh-Ann. Great to be with you. It's analogous to Russia wanting to keep on fighting in Ukraine. Netanyahu thinks that Israel is winning, meaning destroying Hamas step by step. And he has, these extreme rightists in his coalition, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, and they are insisting on fighting and I think ethnically cleansing both Gaza and the West Bank. So, to hold his political coalition together, he feels he has to keep on fighting.
With Iran's ability to help Hamas now degraded after the US-Israeli strikes, will this force the militant group to accept the ceasefire deal on the table?
I think that's a great point. I mean, on the one hand, Hamas's support from Iran is no longer existent, but Hamas itself is devastated. And so I think Hamas is, by saying that we demand a full end of the war, they're in sort of desperate straits. I mean, they want to survive physically, and I think they're looking for a political way to be able to maintain some authority. I don't know at the end of the day how much longer, who knows how much longer they can fight. And eventually every war ends with a political settlement of some sort. It's just unclear if now is that moment and how much fight is left in Hamas.
Will Trump achieve a Gaza ceasefire? The president has said he'll be very firm with Netanyahu at the White House. What do we expect?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, we're guessing here, but my guess is yes. My guess is Trump has been telling Netanyahu already, look, we did what you asked for years. Not only did we acquiesce to you attacking Iran directly, but we, from Trump's perspective, destroyed Iran's nuclear weapons capability. Now it's your turn to pay. And by payment, you have to do the ceasefire. And the ceasefire needs to lead to an end of the war. But the terms thereof are what's under negotiation with the mediation, as you noted, of Egypt and Qatar.
The extreme right-wingers in Netanyahu's coalition, as you mentioned, have been clear about their desire for the war to continue. So how much support does this latest ceasefire agreement have within the Israeli government, the coalition, fragile as it is, and also within society in Israel?
Well, yeah, I think within the coalition, as we're both saying, I mean, Ben Gvir and Minister Smotrich, they want to keep on fighting forever. But they're too small. They represent two small parties in the coalition, and it may be that the coalition has to collapse, and then there would need to be a realignment, maybe new elections in Israel, and then we would see how the Israeli people vote. But my guess is, I mean, it seems clear from opinion polls, the Israeli people want the war to end. They want the hostages freed more than anything. I think the majority of Israelis are critical of Netanyahu precisely for continuing the war rather than focusing entirely on freeing the hostages. Now, Netanyahu has argued, well, it is through military pressure that we've been able to get any of the hostages released. But I think that excuse is starting to wear thin on the Israeli population. And were there to be new elections, it seems very unlikely that he would win. Though the idea of destroying Hamas has been popular across the political spectrum in Israel. It's just that even more Israelis want to see the hostages released.
Israel's military says that it has expanded its operations in Gaza ahead of the meeting between Trump and Netanyahu. Now, really, Matthew, this comes despite over 56,000 Palestinians dead and absolutely huge hundreds of thousands of people now starving. It appears Israel's aggression just continues at the moment.
Leigh-Ann, it's so hard to watch the devastation, the brutality of the Israeli Defense Forces against the Palestinian civilians, and but we have to watch it. I feel have a duty to the dignity of those poor victims. Stepping up a military offensive, however, on the eve of negotiations is a classic tactic of warfare. It is usually the case. I would be surprised if Israel didn't step up its offensive just before the negotiations. But yeah, I think that this footage, like you're showing now, like all the international news services show every day, of the devastation, the bombing of tents and hospitals and the starvation, is not being shown on Israeli TV. So I think the Israeli people they don't share this full vision of what's actually happening that you and I and everybody watching Al Arabiya or any other international network are able to watch.
And Matthew, as a former US ambassador, where do we go from here? Because, you know, we've got the 60-day proposal that Donald Trump has put on the table. It doesn't actually appear to be much different to what we've seen before. A few tweaks here and there. We know that Hamas wants something completely different. Are we at a deadlock? Where's the answer here?
Yeah, well, we don't know yet, right? So in a classic diplomatic approach, you bite off whatever pieces you can to get to cessation of hostilities, and then take the negotiations from there. It's impossible to predict how those negotiations will go. But as we've already said, you know, Hamas seems desperate for the fighting to stop. Israel has a strong political incentive inside the coalition to keep fighting, but the Israeli people don't want to see the fighting continue. So how those three pieces play out, plus Donald Trump, who considers himself the world's greatest deal maker, very much wanting a deal. And of course, you know, he wants to announce it on Monday when Netanyahu is in the Oval Office, but Trump really, really wants the war to end. So these are four different bits of political power that are going to be knocking their heads together, with hopefully Egypt and Qatar being able to broker some sort of an outcome.
Matthew Bryza, former US ambassador, thank you so much for joining me. Such a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Leigh-Ann. Pleasure for me.